The dinner rush came in like a storm. La Piazza's chandeliers glowed warmly above crowded tables, casting golden reflections on polished cutlery. The hum of laughter, clinking glasses, and sizzling pans blended into a chaotic orchestra that only seasoned servers could navigate without drowning. Emily wasn't seasoned. She was on her 4th week, still learning the menu, still memorizing table numbers, still trying to move quickly without looking rushed. Her ponytail was already messy from weaving between customers, her apron dotted with tiny splashes of marinara. But she kept smiling, because she needed this job more than she needed sleep. Her mother's hospital bill had arrived that morning. She hadn't told anyone, not even her coworkers. But the weight of it pressed against her chest, pushing her to keep going. "Emily, table 12 is asking for you again," called Sarah, the senior waitress. Emily forced a breath and nodded. On it, table 12, the one she had been secretly hoping another waitress would take. 3 men in expensive suits, thick gold rings, perfume so strong it reached the table before they did. People like that always seemed to enter the restaurant expecting the world to bow. Worse, they had already sent back 2 dishes, one for being too hot, another for being not hot enough. As Emily approached, one man snapped his fingers sharply, as if calling a pet. "You, finally." Emily swallowed and kept her voice steady. "How can I help you, sir?" The tallest one leaned back, eyes sliding over her uniform as if it offended him. "The steak, it's dry." She knew it wasn't. She had checked it herself. But she nodded. "I'll have it remade. Would you like?" "We'd like you to move faster," another interrupted, tapping the table with manicured fingernails. "We don't have all night. Businessman here." Emily nodded again, because arguing wasn't an option, and hurried back to the kitchen. Chef Marco shot her a sympathetic look when she explained. "Again," he muttered. "Those men are trouble, I know, but we have to keep them happy," Emily whispered. As she prepared new plates and balanced them carefully, she tried not to think about the anger rising behind her ribs. She tried not to think about how people with everything often treated those with nothing. She just breathed, and kept moving. She didn't know that tonight, someone important was listening. Emily returned to table 12 with the freshly prepared dishes, balancing the hot plates carefully. Her palms stung, but she held them steady. Dropping a plate wasn't an option, not tonight. As she placed the steak in front of the tall man, he didn't even look at it. Instead, he looked at her, directly into her eyes, with the same expression someone might give a stain on their shirt. "Took you long enough," he said. The second man snorted into his wine glass. The third one, shorter but loud, leaned forward. "Do you even know what you're doing? This is a high-end restaurant, not some fast food shack." Heat crawled along Emily's neck. She kept her voice calm. "I apologize for the wait. The chef wanted to make sure it was perfect for you." "It's not perfect," the tall man snapped, slicing into the steak aggressively. "It's still wrong." Emily paused. "Is something else the matter with it?" The man threw his knife down. The sound cracked through the restaurant, causing 2 nearby tables to look over. "The problem," he said slowly, "is you. If the staff were better, maybe the food would be too." The other men laughed, a sharp, cruel laugh that felt like a slap. Emily felt a sharp sting behind her eyes, but she blinked it away. She couldn't afford to cry. Not here, not in front of people like them. "Sir, I'm only trying to provide good service," she said softly. "Well, try harder," the short man sneered. "This place should be honored we even came." Another round of laughter, louder, mocking, disrespectful enough that other customers shifted uncomfortably. Emily forced herself to breathe. "If there's anything specific you'd like, I'll just bring the bill," the tall man said dismissively. "We're done wasting time." She nodded and stepped away, relief finally peeking through the stress. Maybe once they paid, she could forget them. But when she returned with the bill, it was tossed back at her with the flick of a wrist. "We're not paying for this," one of them declared, leaning back smugly. "No," the tall one added, "you should pay us for dealing with this joke of a place." Emily stared at the untouched receipt in her hand, her heart thudding painfully. "I'm sorry, but you do need to settle the bill before." The tall man stood up abruptly, towering over her. "Do you think you can force us? Do you know who we are?" Emily felt her throat tighten. The humiliation was overwhelming. She opened her mouth to speak. But a firm, deep voice cut through the tension. "Gentlemen," it said calmly, "is there a problem here?" The air shifted. Emily turned. And there he stood. Mr. Dalton. The billionaire owner. And from the look in his eyes, he hadn't just walked in. He had heard everything. The atmosphere in La Piazza shifted instantly when Mr. Dalton stepped forward. He wasn't a flashy billionaire. No entourage, no designer labels announcing his wealth. He wore a simple charcoal blazer, sleeves rolled neatly at the wrist, and his presence carried the quiet authority of someone who didn't need to prove anything. But the three men at table 12 stiffened anyway. "Is there a problem here?" Dalton repeated, his voice low, steady enough to freeze the entire room. Emily swallowed hard. "Sir, Dalton lifted a hand gently, signaling her to pause. His eyes stayed locked on the businessman. The tall man tried to regain his arrogance. "Who exactly are you? Some manager? Go fetch someone important." Dalton tilted his head, unimpressed. "Important? I suppose that depends on your definition." He reached into his blazer, pulled out a sleek black card, and laid it flat on the table. The embossed logo of La Piazza shimmered under the lights, next to his name. Alexander Dalton, owner and founder. The men blanched. The shortest one let out a nervous laugh. "Look, there's been a misunderstanding." "No," Dalton said sharply. "I listened to the last 10 minutes. Nothing was misunderstood." Other diners watched silently. Even the kitchen staff had poked their heads out, tension pulling them to the scene like gravity. Dalton stepped closer, voice still controlled but colder now. "You insulted my employee. You mocked her for doing her job. And then you attempted to leave without paying." The tall man swallowed. "We were just joking with her. No harm meant." Dalton's jaw tightened. "Humiliation isn't a joke. Not in my restaurant." One of the men tried to smile. "Come on. Let's not make a big deal." Dalton leaned forward slightly, enough to drop the temperature in the room. "Gentlemen, I built this place from nothing. I treat my staff like family. The way you spoke to Miss Emily." He pointed to her. Not rudely, but protectively. "Unacceptable. And it ends now." He slid the bill toward them. "You will pay. In full." The tall man reached for his wallet immediately, hands trembling. Of course, we didn't mean any disrespect." Dalton didn't break eye contact. "You meant every word. That's the issue." They hurried to place their credit card on the tray, adding a forced tip that looked more like a bribe than generosity. Still, Dalton wasn't finished. He turned to Emily, his voice softening instantly. "Miss Emily, do you want to press a formal complaint?" The men's eyes widened in panic. Emily, startled, shook her head. "I just want them to leave, sir." Dalton nodded respectfully. "Then that's what will happen." He returned to the businessmen. "Once your payment clears, you are to exit quietly. And you are permanently banned from La Piazza." Their faces burned red with humiliation. "Security," Dalton called calmly. 2 guards stepped forward, not aggressively, but present enough to drive the message home. Moments later, the men left, silent, deflated, their arrogance shattered at the door. The restaurant exhaled. People nodded to Emily. A few clapped softly. Dalton turned back to her. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her hands still shook. "Thank you, sir. You shouldn't have had to endure that," he said gently. "And you never will again. Not in my restaurant." It was the first time all night she felt her heartbeat slow. The first time she felt safe. And she had no idea, her night was far from over. The moment the door closed behind the 3 businessmen, the tension in the restaurant dissolved like a gust of cold air finally expelled. The chatter slowly resumed, though now softer, more respectful. Several customers glanced at Emily with sympathy and admiration. Emily stood there, still gripping her notepad, trying to steady her breathing. The humiliation lingered like a bruise, but so did something else, relief. And gratitude. "Mr. Dalton approached her again, his expression gentle in a way that surprised her. "Let's talk," he said softly. "In my office." Her stomach tightened. "Am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong?" But his tone held warmth, not reprimand. She followed him through a side hallway leading to a quiet office lined with photos of the restaurant's early days. Dalton in a paint-splattered shirt, building the first tables by hand. A younger him serving customers on opening night. There were no fancy awards, no display of wealth, just a timeline of hard work. "Sit," he said, motioning to a cushioned chair. Emily hesitated, then sat. Her hands still trembled. Dalton rested against his desk, arms crossed. "Emily, I've worked in restaurants since I was 15. I've seen every kind of customer. But what you faced tonight..." He shook his head. "No one should endure that. Ever." Emily exhaled shakily. "It's okay, sir. I'm used to rude customers." "That's the problem," Dalton said sharply. "You shouldn't be used to it." He opened a drawer and pulled out a white envelope, placing it gently in front of her. "What's this?" she asked quietly. "A recognition bonus," he said simply. Emily blinked. "Sir, I didn't do anything special." "You kept your composure under cruelty," Dalton replied. "That's far harder than serving plates." He paused, softening. "Open it." Her fingers trembled as she slid the envelope open. Inside was a check, an amount so high she almost dropped it. "A month's salary." "Sir, I can't accept." "You can," Dalton insisted. "And you will, because you earned it." Emotion hit her like a wave. The stress of her mother's medical bills, the fear of losing her job, the humiliation from those men, all of it collided with this unexpected kindness. Her eyes filled, and she quickly wiped them. Dalton noticed but respectfully pretended not to. "One more thing," he said, straightening. "I'd like to promote you." Emily froze. "Promote me?" "To head server. Higher pay, fewer closing shifts, more stability." Her breath caught. "Sir, why me?" "Because you're exactly the kind of person I want representing my restaurant." Emily stared at the floor, overwhelmed. "Thank you," she whispered. Just then, a soft knock came at the door. It was Sarah, the senior waitress. "Alex," she said to Dalton, "you may want to see this." She held up her phone. On screen was a video, recorded by a customer earlier that night. The businessman yelling, insulting, refusing to pay. Dalton stepping in. The caption, "Billionaire owner protects waitress from rude rich men." It had already hit over 50,000 views. Dalton sighed. "Well, that didn't take long." Emily's eyes widened. "Is that bad?" He smiled faintly. "For you, no. For them, very." By morning, he knew, the clip would be everywhere. But for now, he looked at Emily with quiet certainty. "Go home," he said gently. "Rest. Tomorrow is a new start. For you." Emily stepped out of the office feeling lighter than she had in months. For the first time in a long time, the world felt safe again. And she had no idea that her life was about to change even more.